At my sister's engagement party, my 10-year-old daughter accidentally spilled a red drink on her dress. My sister lost it, slapped her so hard she hit the floor crying in front of 230 guests. Before I could even react, my parents did something even more cruel. I warned them right there they'd regret it. Just 10 minutes later my phone rang. It was my dad, his voice shaking. There are moments in life that shatter your world. A single horrifying second where everything you thought you knew about family crumbles. For me, it was the sickening sound of my 10-year-old daughter hitting the floor. A brutal slap echoing through a room full of strangers. All because of one tiny accidental spilled drink. My name is Rachel Williams, I'm 34, and a single mom to my incredible daughter Emily. 7 years ago, Emily was barely 3 when her dad Daniel walked out on us, claiming he wasn't ready for fatherhood. Just like that, he vanished, leaving me to juggle being both mom and dad while teaching elementary school. Every day since has been a delicate dance. Grading papers late into the night, squeezing parent-teacher conferences around my own classes, stretching every dollar to give Emily everything she needed. But you know what? We built a beautiful life together. Our small 2-bedroom apartment became our sanctuary, filled with Emily's colorful art, our silly photos, and our own traditions. Sunday pancakes, monthly movie nights with homemade popcorn, summer picnics. Our bond grew stronger, a fierce, unbreakable connection forged in fire. My sister Melissa, though, lived a completely different life. 2 years younger, she was always our parents' golden child. I got practical gifts and lectures on responsibility. Melissa got designer clothes and endless praise for her ambition. When I struggled to pay for college, working part-time jobs, they fully funded Melissa's elite private university without a second thought. After graduation, she landed a prestigious marketing job through Dad's connections, and her career exploded while I pursued my passion for teaching. Every family gathering became a painful comparison. Melissa's promotions versus my stable but modest teaching career, her luxury apartment versus my cozy rental, her exotic vacations versus our weekend beach trips. My parents never explicitly said they were disappointed, but their glowing pride in Melissa spoke volumes. Then James Sullivan came into the picture. Son of a prominent local business owner, he was everything my parents valued. Wealth, status, ambition. When Melissa announced their relationship, they were ecstatic. Sunday dinners turned into forums for discussing James's latest business success, Emily's academic achievements, or my students' progress. Barely warranted a polite nod. Your sister really knows how to select the right partner, Mom once casually remarked while we were washing dishes. James has such potential. It's a shame things didn't work out with Daniel, but perhaps next time you'll choose someone with more stability. Her words stung, implying my painful abandonment was just a poor choice on my part. Despite all this, I tried. I really did. Emily deserved to know her aunt and grandparents, regardless of our differences. I accepted the subtle jabs about my parenting. Emily seems so attached. Don't you worry she's not independent enough? My teacher clothes and my lifestyle. Have you considered a side job, Rachel? Single moms need to think about college funds early. When Melissa called 6 months ago to announce her engagement, I genuinely congratulated her. Even felt a glimmer of hope that this new chapter might soften her edges. When she invited us to the engagement party, I thought, maybe, just maybe, things will be different. This is a very exclusive event, Rachel, Melissa emphasized over the phone. James's family invited several important business associates. Emily will need to be on her absolute best behavior. I bit back a sharp retort. Of course, I assured her. Emily is excited to celebrate with her aunt. The weeks leading up to the party were a whirlwind. Money was tight, but I splurged on a navy blue cocktail dress from a department store sale. Nothing like Melissa's designer outfits, but elegant. For Emily, I found a beautiful dress with delicate embroidered flowers. We practiced table manners, discussed appropriate conversation topics. Remember, sweetie, I told her the morning of the party, brushing her hair. This is a very important day for Aunt Melissa. Lots of grown-ups talking about grown-up things, so if you get bored, just stay close to me. Okay? Emily, her blue eyes wide with determination, nodded seriously. I'll be super good, Mom. I won't embarrass you or Aunt Melissa. My heart squeezed. You could never embarrass me, I promised, kissing the top of her head. Just be your wonderful self. As we drove to the exclusive country club, Emily chattered excitedly. My 10-year-old Honda looked woefully out of place amidst the Mercedes, BMWs, and Bentleys. Wow, Emily whispered, pressing her face against the window. It looks like a castle. I checked my appearance one last time. Ready for an adventure? I asked, forcing brightness into my voice. She nodded eagerly. If only I had known what awaited us inside those elegant doors, I might have turned the car around right then. But hindsight offers clarity that hope often obscures, and in that moment, all I wanted was a beautiful day celebrating my sister's happiness. The country club was pure luxury. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, meticulously landscaped gardens, arrangements of white roses and orchids everywhere. Emily's eyes widened. It's like a fairy tale, she whispered, clutching my hand. Rachel, you made it. Melissa's voice was as cold as the champagne. She wore a stunning white designer dress that probably cost more than 3 months of my salary. You're 15 minutes late. Traffic was heavier than expected, I explained, leaning in to kiss her cheek. Congratulations, Melissa. Everything looks beautiful. She accepted the kiss stiffly, her eyes already scanning my outfit. That dress is interesting. Navy blue for a spring engagement. Before I could respond, Emily stepped forward with our small gift bag. Happy engagement, Aunt Melissa. We got you a present. Melissa glanced down as if just noticing my daughter. Thank you, Emily. Put it on the gift table with the others. She gestured vaguely. Your grandparents are somewhere around here. James's parents are eager to meet everyone, so do try to make a good impression. With that, she turned to greet another arriving guest, dismissing us completely. Emily's smile faltered just for a second, but she recovered quickly. Should we find Grandma and Grandpa? I asked, grateful for her resilience. Great idea. We navigated the crowd, finding my parents near the bar. Their faces lit up, until they realized it was us approaching, not someone from James's social circle. Rachel, there you are, my mother said, giving me a quick, perfunctory hug before turning to Emily. My goodness, look how tall you're getting. Are you eating enough vegetables? You look a bit pale. Emily replied politely. Your party dress is really pretty. Thank you, dear, it's Valentino, my mother preened, then turned back to me. Rachel, you should circulate. James's father is the CEO of Sullivan Development. They're practically building half the city. Wouldn't hurt for you to make some connections. My father nodded. Education is all well and good, but with your situation, you should be thinking about more lucrative opportunities. My situation? I raised an eyebrow. Being a single parent, he clarified, as if explaining something obvious to a child. Teachers' salaries aren't exactly designed for sole providers. The familiar sting of their disapproval pricked at me, but I managed a tight smile. Emily and I are doing just fine. Thanks for your concern. Of course you are, my mother said dismissively. Oh look, there's Senator Wilson's wife. We should say hello. Without waiting, they glided away, leaving Emily and me alone again. Are you hungry, sweetie? I asked Emily, spotting a table with child-friendly snacks. We made our way over. Along the way, a middle-aged woman in an elegant pantsuit smiled warmly at us. What a lovely daughter you have, she commented. Those beautiful curls are natural, I assume? Yes, they are, I replied, surprised by her genuine kindness. I'm Catherine Foster, James's aunt, she introduced herself. You must be Melissa's sister, Rachel Williams. I am, and this is my daughter, Emily. Pleased to meet you both. It's refreshing to see a young lady at one of these stuffy events. She winked at Emily, who grinned back. The chocolate-covered strawberries are particularly good, she stage whispered as she moved on. I like her, Mom, Emily said. Me too, sweetie. I agreed, grateful for that brief moment of warmth. But our respite was short-lived. As we sampled the elaborate food spread, I noticed James's parents watching us from across the room. Their expressions were clear. Assessment, disapproval. James's mother whispered something to her husband, their eyes never leaving us. Melissa certainly didn't mention the child would be here. I overheard a woman nearby murmur. I gently guided Emily away from the buffet, determined to shield her from the judgment. We found a quiet corner where Emily could eat her treats while I sipped sparkling water, deciding alcohol would only complicate an already tense situation. An hour into the event, the formal part began. Melissa and James stood at the front. James's father delivered a glowing toast about his son's accomplishments and Melissa's perfect fit into their family. Not once did he mention Melissa's family. When the applause died down, Melissa took the microphone. Thank you all for coming to celebrate our special day, she gushed, her voice polished. She thanked James's parents, her colleagues, and finally, our parents for always pushing me to reach higher. Throughout her speech, her eyes never once drifted to where Emily and I stood. As servers circulated with trays of champagne, Emily tugged at my sleeve. Mom, may I please get some more punch? She whispered, her glass empty. Of course, I replied. Let's find the beverage table. We made our way carefully through the crowd. Emily walked slowly, conscious of navigating between groups of adults. I watched her with pride. Despite being the only child, she handled herself with remarkable poise. The punch bowl stood on a linen-draped table. I helped Emily fill a glass with the bright red liquid. 2 hands, okay? It's crowded in here. I will, Mom, she promised, concentrating intently. Then it happened. As we turned to head back to our corner, a large man, gesturing animatedly while telling a story, stepped backward without looking. His elbow caught Emily's shoulder, throwing her off balance. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion, yet too quickly for me to prevent. The collision was subtle, just a bump, but enough to send ripples through the red punch in Emily's carefully held glass. As she stumbled sideways, the crimson liquid sloshed over the rim, creating an arc through the air before landing with startling precision on the pristine white fabric of Melissa's designer dress. The splatter bloomed like a gruesome flower across my sister's midsection, droplets extending outward. For one frozen moment, the entire room fell silent. The background music suddenly too loud in the absence of conversation. Emily regained her balance and looked up, her expression shifting from confusion to horror as she registered what had happened. The man who had bumped her had already moved on, unaware. "I'm so sorry, Aunt Melissa," Emily gasped, her voice small but distinct in the unnatural quiet. "It was an accident." Melissa stared down at her ruined dress, her perfectly made-up face transitioning through shock, disbelief, and then settling on pure, unadulterated fury. Her eyes, so similar to mine in color, but utterly devoid of warmth, fixed on Emily with an intensity that made my daughter shrink back. "You little brat." The words exploded from Melissa, her voice unrecognizable with rage. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Before I could step forward, before I could place myself between my sister and my child, Melissa's hand swung through the air. The crack of her palm against Emily's cheek echoed like a gunshot in the silent room. The force knocked my 10-year-old backward, her small body losing balance and crumpling to the floor as her now empty glass rolled away across the polished marble. Time seemed to fracture. I stood immobilized by disbelief, my brain refusing to process what my eyes had just witnessed. My sister, my own flesh and blood, had struck my child, hard enough to knock her down. The red mark blooming on Emily's pale cheek matched the stain on Melissa's dress with horrific symmetry. Emily curled into herself on the floor, one hand pressed against her face, tears streaming silently down her cheeks as she stared up at her aunt in confusion and fear. The look in my daughter's eyes, the betrayal, the hurt, the incomprehension, finally broke through my paralysis. I lunged forward, dropping to my knees beside Emily, gathering her trembling body against mine. "Are you okay? Let me see, sweetie." I gently moved her hand, revealing the angry red outline of fingers already visible on her skin. Around us, the room had erupted into chaos. Gasps, whispers. "Oh my goodness." Two younger men in the back had their phones raised, undoubtedly recording. James stood frozen near his parents, his expression caught between embarrassment and shock. "Look what she did to my dress." Melissa towered over us, gesturing wildly at the red stain, her voice a near screech. "This is Vera Wong. It's custom-made. It's ruined. She's a child." I responded, my voice low and dangerous as I helped Emily to her feet. "It was an accident. An accident. She's been running around all evening like this is a playground. This is exactly why children don't belong at adult events." James finally moved forward, placing a hesitant hand on Melissa's arm. "Mel, maybe we should. Don't you dare take their side." Melissa jerked away from him. "My dress is destroyed. The photographs are ruined. Everything is ruined." I was about to respond when my parents pushed through the surrounding guests. And their priority? Not their sobbing granddaughter. They immediately flanked Melissa. "What happened to your beautiful dress?" my mother exclaimed, examining the stain while completely ignoring Emily's marked face. My father turned to me, his expression thunderous. "Rachel, this is exactly why you shouldn't have brought a child to an adult event. Some occasions aren't appropriate for children, especially ones who haven't been taught proper behavior." The casual cruelty of his words, spoken within Emily's hearing, sent a surge of protective rage through me. "Proper behavior?" I bit out, my voice trembling with suppressed fury. "My 10-year-old was just physically assaulted by her aunt, and you're worried about a dress? Don't be so dramatic," my mother dismissed with a wave of her manicured hand. "It was barely a tap. Emily is clearly overreacting, just like her mother." Emily pressed herself against my side, her small body still shaking with silent sobs. The red mark on her cheek had darkened, the outline of fingers unmistakable. "Your sister's engagement party is ruined because your clumsy daughter couldn't be careful with her drink," my father continued, his voice carrying to the captivated audience surrounding us. "This is what happens when children are raised without proper discipline." Something cold and clarifying washed over me at his words. The pattern I had accepted my entire life, the favoritism, the criticism, the emotional manipulation, suddenly appeared with crystalline clarity, not just affecting me now but threatening to damage my daughter. "Emily was bumped by another guest," I stated evenly. "She apologized immediately, and in response, her adult aunt physically struck her with enough force to knock her to the ground. That's not a tap. It's assault on a minor." James's parents had joined our circle now, his mother's face pinched with distaste. "Perhaps it would be best if you took your daughter home," she suggested with faux concern. "She seems upset, and we wouldn't want to further disrupt Melissa and James's special celebration." "Yes, Rachel," Melissa said, still focused entirely on her stained dress. "Take your brat and go. You've done enough damage for one day." "Damage?" I repeated incredulously. "Emily accidentally spilled punch. You deliberately hit a child." Two venue security personnel approached our group, clearly summoned. "Is there a problem here?" the taller one asked, his gaze moving between my furious sister and my tearful daughter. "Yes," Melissa answered before I could speak. "My sister and her daughter are causing a scene and need to leave." The security guard looked to me, taking in Emily's reddened face in obvious distress. His expression softened slightly. "Ma'am, would you like to step outside for a moment?" I recognized the opportunity he was offering. A chance to remove Emily from this toxic situation, to spare her further trauma. But something inside me rebelled against the idea of slinking away, while my family continued to dismiss and justify violence against my child. "No," I replied firmly, feeling Emily straighten slightly beside me at my tone. "We won't be leaving. But I would like to report an assault." The word assault hung in the air like a thunderclap. Several nearby guests who had been pretending not to eavesdrop stopped maintaining the pretense, turning fully toward our family drama. Melissa's face flushed deep red, clashing with the punch stain. "Assault," she sputtered. "Are you insane?" "It was a slap. She ruined my dress." The security guard's demeanor shifted, becoming more alert. "Ma'am, did someone strike the child?" he asked me directly. "Yes," I confirmed, my arm still protectively around Emily's shoulders. "My sister slapped my daughter across the face, hard enough to knock her to the ground, as you can see from the mark on her cheek." "This is ridiculous," my mother interjected. "Family discipline is not assault. Rachel has always been prone to exaggeration." A memory flashed through my mind. Being 10 myself, accidentally breaking one of my mother's decorative plates, and the subsequent lecture lasting for days. The following year, when Melissa broke a vase throwing a tantrum, it was quickly dismissed as just an accident. "Family discipline?" I echoed, my voice steady despite the trembling in my hands. "Emily is my daughter, not Melissa's. No one has the right to strike her, family or otherwise." "You've always been jealous of your sister," my father accused, his voice dropping to a harsh whisper as he became aware of the audience. "Even on her special day, you had to find a way to make it about you." "I'm not the one who created a scene by slapping a child," I countered. The security guard cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should continue this conversation in a private room. There's nothing to discuss," Melissa declared. "Rachel and her daughter need to leave now." James finally found his voice, stepping forward with an uncomfortable expression. "Melissa, maybe we should all take a moment to calm down. Don't you start too." Melissa rounded on him. "This is supposed to be our day. My sister brings her undisciplined child who ruins my designer dress, and somehow I'm the villain." "She hit a child, James," I said quietly. "Is that the kind of person you want to marry?" James's father stepped forward, his imposing presence intended to intimidate. "Young lady, I suggest you reconsider your accusations. The Sullivan family has significant influence in this community. Making false claims could have serious consequences for your teaching career." The thinly veiled threat only strengthened my resolve. I had spent years accommodating my family's toxic behavior, making excuses, accepting their treatment. But seeing them now closing ranks to justify violence against my child, something fundamental shifted inside me. "Are you threatening me for protecting my daughter?" I asked loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "Nobody is threatening anyone," James's mother interjected smoothly. "We're simply suggesting that this unfortunate incident has been blown out of proportion. Children spill things, adults get frustrated. Let's not make a mountain out of a molehill." Emily, who had been silent since the slap, suddenly spoke up. "She hurt me." Her small voice carried surprising strength. "I said I was sorry about the dress, but she hit me really hard." My heart swelled with pride at her courage, even as it broke at the tremor in her voice. "Out of the mouths of babes," commented an elderly woman standing nearby, giving my parents a disapproving look. "Either you and your brat leave now," Melissa hissed, leaning close enough that I could smell her expensive perfume, "or I'll make sure you regret it. Do you have any idea how many school board members are friends with James's family?" The implied threat to my career, my livelihood, the way I supported my daughter was the final straw. "If you or anyone in this family ever touches my daughter again," I replied with deadly calm, "the consequences will extend far beyond a ruined party." "That's not a threat, Melissa. It's a promise." "It was just a slap," my mother insisted, her voice rising with frustration. "Stop being so dramatic, Rachel. You're embarrassing us in front of everyone." "Embarrassing you?" I laughed, a bitter, humorless sound. "Your adult daughter assaulted a child in front of 200 witnesses, and you're worried about embarrassment?" I pulled out my phone and quickly took several photos of Emily's face, the handprint now clearly visible against her pale skin. Then I snapped a picture of Melissa's stained dress. "What are you doing?" Melissa demanded. "Documenting the molehill that supposedly justifies child abuse," I answered calmly. "Abuse? Now you're being ridiculous," my father blustered. "Children need discipline. Discipline is teaching, not hitting," I corrected him. "But then you've always confused the two." James looked increasingly uncomfortable. "Maybe we should all take a break, get some air." "There's no need for a break," Melissa snapped. "There's a need for my sister to take her dramatic daughter and leave my engagement party before they cause any more damage." Then she made her fatal mistake. Leaning down to Emily's level, Melissa spoke with venomous sweetness. You're just being dramatic like your mother, aren't you? Crying over nothing because you want attention. That's probably why your daddy left. He got tired of the constant drama. Emily recoiled as if struck again, her eyes wide with fresh hurt. In that moment, watching my daughter's heart break under the weight of such calculated cruelty, something inside me hardened into diamond-sharp clarity. I had endured decades of my family's emotional abuse. I had accepted their criticisms, their comparisons, their conditional love. But I could not allow them to inflict that same damage on my daughter. With perfect calmness, I reached into my purse and took out my phone again. "What are you doing now?" Melissa demanded as I unlocked my phone screen. Without answering her, I dialed 911 and put the call on speaker. 911, what's your emergency? The dispatcher's professional voice carried clearly in the suddenly silent circle around us. "I need to report an assault on a minor," I stated clearly, maintaining eye contact with my sister. My 10-year-old daughter was slapped across the face by her aunt with enough force to knock her to the ground. "We're at Pine Hills Country Club on Lakeview Drive. Is the child injured?" the dispatcher asked. "She has a visible handprint on her face and may have bruising. Are you in immediate danger? Is the person who assaulted her still present?" "Yes, she's still here. We're currently surrounded by family members who are pressuring us to leave and forget the incident happened." My mother lunged for the phone, but I stepped back, keeping it out of her reach. "Rachel, hang up that phone immediately," she hissed. "You're destroying this family over nothing. Officers are being dispatched to your location," the dispatcher continued. "Please stay on the line until they arrive." Melissa's face had drained of all color except for 2 bright spots of rage on her cheeks. "You called the police on me at my engagement party? Actions have consequences," I replied simply. My father stepped forward, lowering his voice to a menacing whisper. "If you don't end this call right now, you're no longer part of this family. Do you understand me? You will be cut off completely." For the first time in my life, his threat held no power. I had made my choice the moment Melissa struck Emily. Emily, still pressed against my side, looked up at me with a mixture of awe and apprehension. "Mom, it's okay, we can go home if you want." I knelt down to her level, momentarily turning away from my raging family. "No, sweetie, it's not okay. What Aunt Melissa did was wrong, and what Grandma and Grandpa are doing now is wrong too. Sometimes we have to stand up for what's right, even when it's hard." She nodded solemnly, then whispered, "I'm proud of you, Mom." Her words filled me with the certainty that I was making the right choice, however difficult. "Rachel, be reasonable," James finally spoke up, his tone placating. "I'm sure we can resolve this without involving the authorities. What if," he lowered his voice, "what if we could help with Emily's college fund? A generous contribution to put this unfortunate incident behind us." I stared at him in disbelief. "Are you trying to bribe me to ignore the assault of my child?" He blanched, suddenly aware of how his offer sounded. "That's not what I meant, I just thought." "You'll regret this, Rachel," Melissa cut in, her voice shaking with fury. "When you're looking for a new job because no school in this district will hire you. When you're struggling even more than you already are. You'll wish you'd just taken your brat and left when you had the chance." Several guests had begun edging toward the exit, clearly uncomfortable. Others lingered, some openly recording with their phones. I realized with grim satisfaction that Melissa's behavior would be documented regardless of what happened next. Through the crowd, I noticed a familiar face. Catherine Foster, James's aunt, who had been kind to Emily earlier. Unlike the others, she was watching with a particular intensity, her eyes moving between Emily's marked face and Melissa's furious expression. When our eyes met, she gave me a small, approving nod. "The police are on their way, ma'am," the dispatcher's voice reminded us from the phone. "Are you and the child in a safe location?" "We're surrounded by witnesses," I confirmed. "We're not in immediate danger." Less than 10 minutes later, 2 uniformed officers entered the ballroom, guided by one of the security guards. The festive atmosphere had completely dissolved, replaced by tense clusters of guests discussing the drama in hushed tones. My parents and Melissa had moved slightly away from us, huddled with James and his parents in intense conversation. The first officer, a woman in her 40s named Officer Lopez, approached us directly. "Ma'am, I understand you reported an assault on a minor." "Yes," I confirmed. "My daughter Emily was slapped by my sister after accidentally spilling a drink." Officer Lopez knelt to Emily's level, her voice gentling. "Hi there, Emily. My name is Officer Lopez. Would it be okay if I took a look at your face?" Emily nodded, turning her cheek to show the still visible handprint. The officer examined it without touching, then took out her phone. "Would it be all right if I take a picture of this? It will help us document what happened." After receiving permission, she photographed Emily's face from several angles, then stood to address me again. "Can you tell me exactly what happened?" I recounted the incident in detail while the second officer took notes. As I spoke, Officer Lopez occasionally glanced toward where my family stood, their expressions ranging from Melissa's fury to controlled panic. "There are multiple witnesses," I concluded, "and several people were recording video after it happened. Recordings would be very helpful," Officer Lopez confirmed. Do you know who might have footage? A voice spoke up from behind us. I do. Catherine Foster stepped forward, her phone in hand. I started recording when I saw the confrontation escalating. I captured the aftermath and all the threats made against Rachel and her daughter. Threats? The second officer asked sharply. Threats to her employment, suggestions that the family would cut her off, implications that the Sullivan family's connections would make trouble for her, Catherine elaborated. I'd be happy to provide my contact information and send you the video. While the officers collected Catherine's information, I saw Melissa and my parents engaged in heated whispers. James looked increasingly uncomfortable, running a hand through his hair repeatedly as his parents spoke urgently to him. When the officers approached my sister's group, the transformation was immediate. Melissa's rage morphed into tearful distress. Officers, there's been a terrible misunderstanding, she began, her voice catching dramatically. It was just a reflexive reaction to having my expensive dress ruined. I would never intentionally hurt my niece. Regardless of intent, you struck a child, Officer Lopez stated flatly. According to multiple witnesses, with enough force to knock her down. It was barely a tap, my mother insisted. Children these days are so sensitive. In our day, a little discipline was normal. Ma'am, hitting a child hard enough to leave a visible mark isn't discipline, it's assault, the officer replied. And as I understand it, the child isn't even your daughter's to discipline. My father tried a different approach. Officers, surely we can handle this as a family matter. My oldest daughter tends to overreact. There's no need for this to go any further. Sir, when we receive a report of assault on a minor, we are obligated to investigate fully, Officer Lopez explained patiently. This isn't something we can just ignore. As the officers continued questioning my sister, I noticed James had stepped away from the group and was watching the proceedings with an unreadable expression. When he caught me looking, he approached slowly. I've never seen Melissa act like that before, he said quietly. I knew she could be particular about things, but this isn't new behavior, James, I told him honestly. It's just the first time you've seen it directed at someone vulnerable enough that you couldn't ignore it. He absorbed this in silence, then said, I'm sorry about what happened to Emily. That should never have happened, regardless of the circumstances. Before I could respond, Officer Lopez returned to us. Ma'am, we've spoken with multiple witnesses and viewed some video evidence. Based on our investigation, we're issuing a citation to Melissa Foster for simple assault on a minor. This is a misdemeanor offense that can carry penalties including fines and potential jail time, though first offenses typically result in probation. You'll need to appear in court on the date listed on this card. She handed me a business card with case information. You may also wish to file for a temporary restraining order to prevent further contact between your daughter and your sister until this is resolved. A restraining order? My mother's voice rose in disbelief from behind us. This is absurd. We're family. Family members are statistically the most common perpetrators of child abuse, ma'am, Officer Lopez replied evenly. The law doesn't make exceptions based on relationship. As the reality of the situation sank in, the remaining guests began dispersing quickly, murmuring excuses as they headed for the exits. James's parents were engaged in intense conversation with the event coordinator, likely trying to control the damage to their social standing. You've ruined everything. Melissa spat as an officer handed her the citation. I hope you're satisfied. No, Melissa, I replied calmly. I'm not satisfied. I'm heartbroken that my sister would hurt my child and that our parents would defend that behavior. But I am at peace with my decision to protect Emily, even if it costs me my relationship with all of you. As we prepared to leave with a police escort, Emily looked up at me. Mom, are Grandma and Grandpa going to hate us now? I considered sugarcoating the truth, but decided my daughter deserved honesty. They're very angry right now, sweetie, but we did the right thing. Sometimes standing up to bullies is hard, especially when those bullies are people we love. Like you stood up to Aunt Melissa? She asked. Yes, I nodded. And you were so brave too, telling the truth, even though it was scary. As we walked to our car, Emily squeezed my hand. Mom, she said thoughtfully, sometimes family can be the worst bullies, can't they? Looking down at her wise young face, I felt a surge of determination that she would never again be made to feel that her worth was conditional on someone else's approval, not even family. Yes, they can, I agreed. But we don't have to accept being bullied. Not by anyone. The drive home was quiet, both of us processing the enormity of what had happened. Halfway home, Emily broke the silence. I'm sorry about Aunt Melissa's dress, she said in a small voice. It was an accident, Emily, I reminded her gently. Accidents happen. Nothing you did justified how she reacted. I know, she nodded. But I'm still sorry it happened. Her capacity for empathy, even towards someone who had hurt her, filled me with pride. Whatever happened next with my family, I knew with absolute certainty that Emily and I would be okay. The days following the engagement party incident unfolded like scenes from a movie I never wanted to star in. By Sunday morning, someone had posted video of the aftermath of the slap online, capturing Melissa's fury, my parents' dismissal of Emily's pain, and the arrival of police officers. The clip went viral locally, then regionally, with comments overwhelmingly supportive of my decision to report the assault. My phone began ringing incessantly, unknown numbers, local news, distant relatives, even a few parents from my school checking on Emily's well-being. I answered only known contacts and kept Emily home from school on Monday. Tuesday morning brought the news that Melissa had been placed on administrative leave from her marketing firm pending an investigation. Apparently, the company's family-friendly brand couldn't risk association with viral videos of their executives striking a child. Your sister has been devastated by this, my mother's voicemail informed me. Her career may be ruined because you couldn't handle a family matter privately. I hope you're satisfied with yourself. I deleted the message without returning the call, focusing instead on Emily. We'd visited a child therapist, Dr. Karen Bennett, on Monday afternoon. Emily had been quiet but cooperative. Children are remarkably resilient, Dr. Bennett assured me afterward. What matters most is that Emily sees you standing up for her, validating her feelings, and ensuring there are consequences for harmful behavior, even when that behavior comes from family members. On Wednesday, I returned to my classroom, prepared for awkward questions but finding unexpected support instead. My principal, Dr. Natalie Washington, called me into her office first thing. "Rachel, I want you to know the school district fully supports you," she stated firmly. "We've received a few calls from people claiming to be concerned about your judgment, but we recognize attempted intimidation when we see it. Your personnel file has been temporarily restricted to administrative access only, just as a precaution." Her words confirmed my suspicion that James's family had already begun leveraging their connections, but her support lifted an enormous weight from my shoulders. "Thank you," I managed, fighting back tears of relief. "I was worried." "Don't be," Dr. Washington said firmly. "Your teaching record is exemplary, and you did exactly what we train our staff to do. Report suspected child abuse, even when it comes from family members." Emily returned to school on Thursday, nervous but determined. Her teacher, Mrs. Garcia, contacted me midday. "Things are going well." Some kids asked about the fading bruise on her cheek, but Emily handled it beautifully. She just said there was a family problem that her mom helped fix, and then changed the subject. That afternoon, I received an unexpected email from Catherine Foster, James's aunt. "Rachel, I wanted to check on you and Emily. What happened at the party was inexcusable, and I admire your courage in standing up for your daughter. I should mention that James has postponed the wedding indefinitely. He told his parents he needs time to reconsider. If you need anything at all, please don't hesitate to contact me." I read the email twice, feeling a complex mixture of emotions. While I took no pleasure in Melissa's troubles, I couldn't help but feel that James was seeing my sister's true colors before making a lifetime commitment. Friday afternoon brought another development. A certified letter from my parents' attorney, threatening to contest the restraining order I'd filed to keep Melissa away from Emily. It included thinly veiled threats about family matters being aired in public, and consideration of Emily's long-term interests. I forwarded the letter to the affordable legal aid attorney I'd consulted, who replied promptly, "This is intimidation, nothing more. The temporary restraining order has already been granted. Given the evidence and witness statements, the judge is likely to approve the permanent order at next week's hearing." Throughout that tumultuous week, my concern remained focused on Emily. Each night we maintained our bedtime routine, reading together, talking about our day, and sharing things we were grateful for. Despite everything, Emily consistently mentioned being grateful for having a mom who protects me, words that simultaneously healed and broke my heart. The following Tuesday, we appeared in family court for the restraining order hearing. I had prepared Emily for seeing her grandparents and possibly Melissa, but when we arrived, only my parents were present with their attorney. Melissa had apparently decided not to attend. "The respondent's absence does not prejudice these proceedings," the judge noted, reviewing the file. "We have substantial evidence, including photographic documentation of injury to the minor, video recordings of the aftermath, and multiple witness statements." My parents sat stiffly in their formal attire, occasionally whispering to their attorney, but never once looking directly at Emily or me. The proceedings were mercifully brief. The judge reviewed the evidence, asked a few clarifying questions, and then granted a 1-year restraining order prohibiting Melissa from contacting Emily in person, by phone, through social media, or through third parties. As we left the courtroom, my father finally approached us, his attorney hovering anxiously nearby. "Rachel, this has gone far enough," he began, his voice low. "Your sister's job is in jeopardy. Her engagement is on the rocks. Are you happy now?" I positioned myself slightly in front of Emily. "Dad, those are consequences of Melissa's actions, not mine. I'm not happy about any of this. I'm sad that my sister chose to hurt my daughter, and I'm heartbroken that you and Mom chose to defend that behavior instead of protecting your granddaughter. You always were stubborn," he muttered. "Just like your grandmother." "I'll take that as a compliment," I replied. Grandma Ruth stood up for what was right too. As we walked away, Emily slipped her hand into mine. Mom, will we ever talk to Grandma and Grandpa again? I don't know, sweetie, I answered. Honestly, that depends on whether they can understand that what happened was wrong and make real changes. But no matter what, you and I are going to be okay. The weeks that followed brought unexpected developments. Anonymous donations to Emily's college fund appeared in our mailbox, ranging from $20 to one particularly generous check for $5,000 with a note simply signed KF. I suspected Catherine Foster, but had no way to confirm. Extended family members I hadn't spoken to in years reached out with messages of support. My cousin Taylor revealed that she had distanced herself from family gatherings years ago, after similar treatment from my parents and Melissa. They always made me feel like I wasn't good enough, she confided during our lunch. Watching you stand up to them gave me courage to reconnect with the family members who actually value me. Most surprising was an email from James himself, 6 weeks after the incident. Rachel, I wanted you to hear this from me directly. After much reflection, I've ended my relationship with Melissa. The incident with Emily forced me to recognize patterns I'd been ignoring. I've suggested Melissa seek therapy to address her anger issues, and I'm doing the same to understand why I tolerated certain behaviors for so long. Please know I wish only the best for you and Emily. I showed the email to my therapist. I had started my own counseling sessions, recognizing that my family dynamics had affected me in ways I was only beginning to understand. This is a positive development, she observed. Not because your sister lost her relationship, but because it suggests there may be accountability and growth happening. People don't change unless they have reason to reflect on their behavior. 2 months after the incident, my mother called. I almost didn't answer but decided to give her a chance. Rachel, she began awkwardly, your father and I have been discussing things. We've been talking with Pastor Michael at church about family reconciliation. I remained silent, waiting. We're not saying we handled everything perfectly, she continued, the admission clearly difficult for her. But surely now that some time has passed, we can put this behind us? We miss seeing Emily. Mom, putting it behind us without addressing what happened isn't reconciliation. It's sweeping abuse under the rug, I replied carefully. Emily has been working with a therapist to process what happened. If you and Dad are serious about rebuilding a relationship with us, I'd suggest you speak with her therapist about how to move forward appropriately. Therapy? My mother sighed. Is that really necessary? In our day? Yes, it's necessary, I interrupted firmly. And it's non-negotiable if you want to be part of Emily's life again. The line went quiet for so long I thought she might have hung up. Finally, she said, I'll discuss it with your father. It wasn't a promise of change, but it was the first conversation with my mother in years that hadn't ended with me feeling diminished. Small progress, but progress nonetheless. The most unexpected letter arrived exactly 3 months after the engagement party. I recognized Melissa's handwriting on the envelope immediately, but opened it with caution. Rachel, she had written in her precise script. I've been attending anger management therapy as part of my agreement with the prosecutor to reduce the charges. I began going just to satisfy the legal requirements, but it has forced me to confront some uncomfortable truths about myself and our family dynamics. I am writing to acknowledge that my behavior toward Emily was inexcusable. No child deserves to be struck, regardless of the circumstances. I am not asking for forgiveness or for the restraining order to be lifted. I simply wanted you to know that I am working to become someone who would never again react with violence. Melissa. The letter contained no excuses, no attempts to share blame, and no request for reconciliation. Just accountability. I showed it to my therapist at our next session. This appears to be a genuine step toward accepting responsibility, she noted. Whether this leads to reconciliation is a separate question, one you don't need to answer now, or perhaps ever. As summer arrived, Emily and I established new traditions and connections. We joined a community garden where Emily discovered a talent for nurturing plants. I formed friendships with several other single parents through a support group, people who understood the challenges and joys of raising children alone. At school, I received an unexpected promotion to lead teacher for my grade level, with Dr. Washington specifically citing my demonstrated commitment to children's welfare and safety as a qualifying factor. The implied message was clear. Despite whatever pressure James's family might have applied, the school district stood firmly behind me. One evening in July, as Emily and I walked home from the community pool, she asked thoughtfully, Mom, are you still sad about Grandma and Grandpa? I considered the question carefully. I'm sad about the relationship we don't have, and the relationship you don't have with them. But I'm not sad about the decisions I made to keep you safe. She nodded, processing this. I think Melissa's letter was brave, she observed. My therapist says admitting when you're wrong is really hard for grown-ups sometimes. I smiled at her insight. Your therapist is very wise. Do you think we'll ever be a normal family again? She asked. I think, I replied slowly, that we already are a normal family, just you and me. And maybe someday our family circle will grow again, but only with people who treat us with respect and kindness. Emily considered this, then smiled. I like our family the way it is now. As we rounded the corner to our apartment building, I realized that despite the painful journey of the past months, I felt lighter than I had in years. The constant weight of seeking approval from people who would never truly give it had been replaced by the simple certainty that Emily and I were enough, just as we were. 6 months after the engagement party incident, Emily and I settled into a new normal that felt healthier than the family dynamic I had accepted for most of my life. Our small apartment remained our sanctuary, but it no longer felt like a place we needed to defend against criticism. Instead, it became a gathering spot for new friends who appreciated us exactly as we were. Emily's recovery from the trauma progressed steadily under Dr. Bennett's gentle guidance. The physical mark from Melissa's slap had faded within days, but the emotional impact required more time to heal. Through play therapy and art expression, Emily processed her feelings about that day and the family upheaval that followed. "She's doing remarkably well," Dr. Bennett assured me during one of our parent consultations. "Children are incredibly resilient when they have a secure attachment to at least one caring adult who consistently puts their well-being first. Emily knows without question that you will protect her, and that security is powerful medicine." My own therapy journey proved more challenging. Decades of family dynamics don't unravel easily, and I struggled with lingering guilt about breaking up the family, despite knowing I had made the right choice. "You didn't break up your family," my therapist reminded me regularly. "You set a boundary against harmful behavior. Others chose not to respect that boundary. There's a significant difference." Gradually, I learned to recognize and challenge the patterns of thought instilled by years of subtle emotional manipulation. I stopped apologizing for taking up space, for having needs, for protecting my child. I began to trust my own judgment without seeking external validation. The legal consequences of Melissa's actions eventually resolved with her accepting a plea deal. 6 months of probation, completion of an anger management program, and community service hours at a children's advocacy center. The irony of the assignment wasn't lost on me, but I hoped the experience might foster genuine growth. My parents' journey toward reconciliation progressed in fits and starts. After initially refusing, they eventually agreed to meet with Emily's therapist to discuss appropriate boundaries for rebuilding a relationship with their granddaughter. The first session was tense, with my father particularly resistant to the framing of Melissa's behavior as abusive. "In my day, discipline was expected," he insisted. "Children had consequences for their actions." "Mr. Williams," Dr. Bennett replied calmly, "there's an important distinction between discipline, which teaches, and punishment, which simply hurts. What happened to Emily wasn't discipline by any definition. It was an adult losing control and physically harming a child who had already apologized for an accident." My mother surprisingly nodded slightly at this. Later, she confided that their pastor had been helping them understand the difference between old-school parenting and behavior that crossed into abuse. Progress came slowly. We established strictly supervised visits, short encounters in public places like parks or restaurants, always with me present. My parents were clearly uncomfortable with the constraints but complied with the boundaries I set. For Emily's birthday, they gave her a handmade card with a heartfelt note that made no excuses, but simply expressed love and a desire to be better grandparents. Melissa and I maintained distance, respecting the restraining order that would remain in effect for a full year. Through our parents, I learned she had indeed completed her anger management program and continued with private therapy afterward. She had found a new job at a smaller firm, accepted the professional setback, and appeared to be genuinely reflecting on her behavior patterns. In an unexpected development, Catherine Foster, James's aunt, who had supported us at the engagement party, became a mentor and friend. A retired family court judge, she provided both legal guidance and personal support as we navigated the aftermath. "I watched my nephew almost marry into a family dynamic that mirrored my own first marriage," she confided over coffee one afternoon. "Seeing you stand up to protect Emily gave me hope that cycles can be broken." James himself moved to another state for a job opportunity, but sent a kind email checking on Emily's well-being before he left. "Your courage that day helped me find mine," he wrote. "I'll always be grateful for that wake-up call, painful as it was." At school, Emily blossomed. Her teacher reported she had become more assertive in positive ways, standing up for classmates who were teased, volunteering for leadership roles, speaking confidently during presentations. The timid child who had once worried about embarrassing adults had been replaced by a girl who understood her own worth. My professional life flourished as well. The promotion to lead teacher brought new responsibilities and opportunities that stretched my capabilities. Rather than shrinking from challenges as I might have before, I leaned into them, discovering strengths I hadn't recognized in myself. Months into the school year, Emily came home excited about a class project on everyday heroes. "Mom, I'm writing about you," she announced as she unpacked her backpack. Miss Garcia said, "We should pick someone who shows courage in regular life, not like superheroes with special powers." "That's very sweet, honey," I replied, touched but slightly uncomfortable with the spotlight. "But there are lots of heroes you could write about. Firefighters, doctors, military personnel." Emily shook her head decisively. Those are important jobs, but I want to write about how you stood up to Aunt Melissa and Grandpa when they were being bullies, even though it was really hard because you love them." Her clear-eyed assessment of what had happened and her recognition of the complexity of standing up to family left me momentarily speechless. The resulting essay, titled "My Mom, My Hero," earned an A+ and a special commendation from her teacher. More importantly, it demonstrated Emily's processing of the traumatic event into a narrative of protection and courage, rather than victimhood. On the 6-month anniversary of the incident, Emily suggested we create a new tradition. "Let's have a courage celebration," she proposed. "Not to remember the bad parts, but to celebrate standing up for what's right, even when it's scary." We marked the occasion with a special dinner and small gifts symbolizing bravery. A lion bookmark for Emily, an arrow-shaped pendant for me. As we ate chocolate cake for dessert, Emily asked thoughtfully, "Do you think Aunt Melissa will ever be part of our family again?" I considered the question carefully. "I don't know, sweetie. That would depend on many things. Her continuing to work on her anger, a genuine understanding of why what she did was wrong, and most importantly, your comfort and feelings about it. We don't have to decide that now, or maybe ever." She nodded, accepting the honest answer. "I think I might be okay with seeing her someday, but not yet. And only if you're there too." "There's no rush," I assured her. "And any decision we make will be about what's healthy for us, not about making other people comfortable." As winter turned to spring, tentative connections with extended family members began to form. My cousin Taylor became a regular visitor, bringing her children for playdates with Emily. My mother's sister, who had distanced herself from family gatherings years ago due to my parents' controlling behavior, reached out after hearing about the incident. "I always saw how they treated you differently than Melissa," Sarah confided during her visit. "I tried to say something once, but your mother didn't speak to me for months afterward. I should have tried harder, been more present for you. You're here now," I assured her, recognizing that healing could extend beyond just Emily and me. In April, I received a formal letter from Melissa's therapist requesting permission to facilitate a restorative justice conversation between us. The letter emphasized that this was Melissa's idea, but that I was under no obligation to participate. After discussing it with my own therapist and with Emily, who would not be present for any such meeting, I tentatively agreed to a preliminary conversation. The meeting, held on neutral ground in the therapist's office, was awkward but productive. Melissa appeared genuinely changed, more reflective, less defensive, willing to take full responsibility for her actions without qualifications. "I've been examining patterns that existed long before the engagement party," she admitted. "The way our parents pitted us against each other, how I internalized the message that perfection was the only acceptable standard, how I learned to manage anxiety by controlling everything and everyone around me. None of that excuses what I did to Emily, but understanding it helps me ensure I never react that way again. We didn't emerge as friends or even fully reconciled sisters, but we established a framework for possible future healing. The restraining order would remain in effect until its natural expiration, with any contact with Emily to be determined later, and only with extensive preparation and professional support." As the 1-year mark approached, I reflected on how profoundly our lives had changed since that fateful day. The family I had desperately tried to please no longer held power over my sense of worth. The daughter I had always protected now walked with greater confidence, secure in the knowledge that her boundaries would be respected. And I had discovered a strength I never knew I possessed: the courage to stand firm, even when standing alone. One evening as I tucked Emily into bed, she asked a question that caught me off guard. "Mom, are you glad the punch spilled on Aunt Melissa's dress?" I sat on the edge of her bed, considering how to answer truthfully. "No, I'm not glad that happened. I wish that day had gone differently in many ways. But I am grateful for what we learned through that difficult experience." "What did we learn?" she asked, genuinely curious. "We learned that your worth isn't determined by other people's approval, even family. We learned that love should never hurt or diminish. We learned that standing up for what's right might cost relationships, but it gains self-respect. And most importantly, we learned that sometimes the family you're born into isn't as healthy as the family you choose to build." Emily thought about this, then nodded. "I like the family we're building." "Me too, sweetheart," I agreed, kissing her forehead. "Me too." As I turned off her light and closed her door, I felt a profound sense of peace. The journey hadn't been easy, and it wasn't fully complete. Healing rarely follows a straight line, and relationships damaged by years of unhealthy patterns don't transform overnight. But for perhaps the first time in my life, I felt fully confident in my choices, secure in my boundaries, and hopeful about our future, not despite standing up to my family, but because of it. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is simply refuse to accept treatment that diminishes us or those we love. Sometimes love means standing up, not standing by. And sometimes the most important family bond isn't the one you're born with, but the one you protect with every fiber of your being.